All right, welcome back to the channel. We have another semi-breaking news. We now officially have the list of the honours list, the resignation list of the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Earlier on, we reported that Nadine Dorries has resigned with immediate effect, and everybody thought that means she's going to join the House of Lords. So she talked to her bestie, Boris Johnson. But clearly, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has snubbed her. We have the list of the the people who are going to get the knighthood and everything else, as well as peerage. So we've got the resignation peerages 2023. We have Sean Bailey, obviously, as a former London Mayoral candidate. We've got a former political secretary, chief of staff to former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We've got, we've got Benjamin Hutchin, who's the mayor for Teesside, Tees Valley, actually. You've got the former political director of the Conservative Party, who's Ross Kempsell, who used to be Guido Fawkes, actually. We've got Charlotte Owens, who's a former SPAD to the Prime Minister. Colvia Ranger, used to work for Boris in the City Hall, and Daniel Rosenfield as well, who was former Chief of Staff. There's no Nadine Dorries on the list. Brilliant. It's actually hilarious. We also have a list of the knighthoods. And unsurprisingly, Conor Burns is at the top. Good friends with Boris Johnson. We've got Simon Clarke, Ben Elliott, Michael Fabricant, Will Lewis, and Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. And damehoods, Andrea Jenkins. I think they just picked Andrea Jenkins to completely trigger the left. Amanda Milling, quite boring. Priti Patel, that's going to cause a lot of outrage. And Sindel and Shelley Williams Walker. So there's been a bit of a snobbery here when it comes to Nadine Dorries. Now there are currently theories about why she resigned. And in order to explore those theories, we have the political analyst and Talk TV's Peter Barnes on the show. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Mahyar. Thanks for having me back. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has actually. So a lot changed within an hour. So you had an hour ago. Nadine Dorries resigned. Everyone thought, oh yeah, so this is going to be exciting for her. But clearly not.
Do you know we always say that by whatever the story is, at the beginning of the day, by the end of the day, it's something radically different. This is the prime example. It has been widely speculated that Nadine was going to get the peerage, and this is why I think everybody thought when she resigned. You know, there was a rumor yesterday that this honours list was going to be approved. So yeah, it was like, oh, this is all played out normally. And yeah, it is very clear that Boris has snubbed her very publicly. I often wonder if somebody's had a word with Boris, like from Downing Street or CCHQ, and said, not her. Have whoever you want, but not her. Because let's be honest, she's been a little volatile on Twitter. You know, she's been all over the place. You know, she said some very controversial things. And Rishi has said for quite some time now, he wants to draw a line under this and move on. And I think this is his moment where, like, this is it now. But yeah, this is a pass the popcorn, but on both sides of the aisle kind of situation. The left are going to go mental because it's all the Partygate people. Guto Harris is on there. Jack Doyle is on there. There's a couple of big names as well that have been involved in some controversial stuff. And then, like you said, the people on the Boris supporters, who people were expected to be on, aren't on the list either. So it's interesting how this is just going to annoy pretty much everybody. So yeah, pass the popcorn. This is just starting. I think it is.
Yeah, so we actually have the screenshot of the WhatsApp group chat from the Conservative MPs as well. Mark Jenkins removed Nadine Dorries. Anthony Brown said, by-election.
God, it's brutal. It is genuine. I think this is the one thing that a lot of people who aren't really involved in politics like me and you are, they don't realize just how brutal this world can actually be. Like, the minute she announced, she was basically dead. Like, that was it. She was done for. I mean, it looks very clear to me that she's now resigned because she got tipped that she wasn't getting this peerage. And she's thrown her toys out the pram. I find her timing very interesting because it's looking like she's done it deliberately to force the announcement of the honours list. But also, at the same time, Rishi Sunak was giving his speech to the Northern Research Group. So she's stolen the headlines and attention from him there. So I think she's thrown her toys out the pram, or she's done the classic, taken a ball and gone home. I think she's behaved very poorly here, but with my experience of working with Nadine, it doesn't really surprise me.
No, absolutely. It is fascinating. Yeah, she's, I think, aimed to target Boris Johnson for snubbing her, and also Rishi by taking away the spotlight from him. So, yeah. But it is interesting because maybe in her own head, in her own world, she thinks she's turned herself into the victim. Like, but I don't think anybody cares.
No, I don't think if she does try this victim thing, I don't think it's really going to work. I think maybe that kind of campaign for conservative democracy group, you know, they bring back Boris, lot, they might have some sympathy for her. But it is interesting that Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's probably one of the other, probably the only really biggest Boris Johnson supporter in Parliament at the minute, got a knighthood, and she's just not got anything. You know,
Yeah.
like fair enough, if she didn't get the peerage, she might have got a damehood. She's not got anything, and honestly, she was beating the drum for Boris throughout Partygate, you know, throughout the kind of through the Privileges Committee stuff, you know, as she got that big interview over on Talk TV with Boris as well. You know, it is very interesting. It might, like I said, be something from Downing Street to CCHQ, but it could also be if they've personally fallen out as well, because you know, two volatile people in a room, the friendships very rarely last. So
Yeah.
I think there's a story here. I do. I have to admit, my gut's telling me something's happened.
Someone's not going to be invited to a Christmas dinner. So,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but obviously, I'm going to get into the knighthoods and the damehoods
yeah,
and all that in a sec. But the list of peerages is just cliche of all your allies, you know, anyone who's an advisor or a bag carrier. Isn't it? Again, we're going to go back to the whole point of the House of Lords over the last few decades. It's become so politicized. Is it not completely undermining the whole House of Lords even further, even more than the days of Tony Blair? They're just proving the establishment that you know they have been politicizing the whole thing, and a lot of people are going to be frustrated with the House of Lords. Some people would say just abolish it. Some people would say turn it into a Senate, and some people like me would say just go back to tradition. Is it making things worse?
it doesn't. Nobody on that list really surprises me. Like you said, it's full of like kind of Westminster insiders, former MPs. The interesting one is Ben Hotchin, I have to admit, but he's always been a Boris supporter anyway. He always credited his victory to Boris, so I don't. It's not really that much of a surprise, but it's unusual to have somebody like that elevated to that level.
He's young.
But
It's
yeah,
too early for him.
he is young. It does kind of write the rest of his political career off,
Yeah, it's a dead
which I
end.
find quite interesting. Is I wonder if he's thought, you know, he probably won't win a seat at the next general election. He might think he's too old to run, or you know, whatever. You don't know how long the Labour Party might be in power if they win at the next one. So, you know, this is his chance to really to get into Parliament. It's not really a bad move on his front, but it does kind of cut him off at the knees for wanting to do anything in the future. But
Yeah.
we'll have to wait and see on that one. But what I would say is one thing that's happened today is that the Lords have rejected the mandatory minimum service bill that's the government put through, so that when there are strikes, there has to be a current level of staffing and things like hospitals and trains and stuff. And we're seeing this constant ping ponging between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So the House of Lords are just rejecting everything the government is putting through time after time after time, and they're just deliberately delaying. Like people say, oh, it's the House of Lords' job to scrutinise the government, not just pass things through, and I agree with that. But I don't think any of this is scrutiny. It's all politically motivated. The Lords are supposed to be above that. It's evidently not fit for purpose. The Blair reforms in, I think it was 2005, I think, have done nothing to help this process. And it's about time that we actually got to grips with the House of Lords. But the problem is there's no real political capital to be gained from it. You know, we're coming into an election period, so the government can try and do something, but it's going to spend a lot of its own energy and its own good favour trying to fix something. The majority of the public, while some might be annoyed by it, it's not really going to win them any votes. So
Yeah.
we are stuck. We are stuck right now. Is well, it's something that really needs to be fixed won't be fixed because they won't get anything from it. If you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
it's a big old mess. But
It
yeah,
it, it
it's
is
kind of.
because
But it has been for some time, and I don't really
yeah.
see that changing anytime soon.
I mean, yeah, right now it's the Labour Party and the left having control of the House of Lords, but with the Boris's resignation and then Rishi Sunak, if he loses the election, then they're going to fill the House with more Tories. Then Keir Starmer as Prime Minister is going to have problems again with the House of Lords. So it's no longer checks and balances; it's just blockage. And what's your
Yeah.
view on Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg? Do you think it's mainly because himself and basically the decision was you're still in the Commons, maybe in the future a more right-wing leader, you can become chancellor or something, stay in there and you could become sir? Or do you think it's for a different reason?
I think let's not forget he's a big Boris Johnson supporter. He has been since day one, like probably when he was first rumored to be running. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg was first out the blocks to support him. So yeah, it is not really a big surprise. I think he's right. Let's not forget he's been an MP since 2010. So for public service and all the rest of it, Jacob Rees-Mogg has done a lot in politics. So it's not really undeserving. It will trigger all the right people. I can't wait to see James O'Brien's meltdown on LBC. I mean, he's already writing his virtue signaling monologue as we speak.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. That was the one that I probably would have been more shocked if Jacob hadn't got something than I am with Nadine.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah, but it's
yeah.
interesting that he didn't get a peerage, he got a knighthood, so he can still stay as an
Well,
MP.
again, I go back to that point with Ben. Jacob isn't as old as people think he is. He's only in his mid-40s. He still has a long political career ahead of him. And I actually think, I wonder if there's been some communication saying, like, look, I want to give you something. Because that's not really supposed to happen, but it kind of does. And I just wonder if he said, don't give me a peerage. If you want to give me a knighthood, fine. Very much appreciated, thank you. But like I said, once you're kind of in the Lords, you can't really do anything politically then in terms of kind of wanting a ministerial job or wanting, if he tries to run for party leader, which I know a few people really want him to do. He's kind of caught off at the knees there. So I think there's been a little bit of strategy when it comes to Jacob, if I'm being honest. But I think anybody who says he's not earned his peerage, I'm sorry, that's just political bias speaking.
Knighthood.
Knighthood. Sorry, knighthood.
Yeah.
This is going to get confusing.
Yeah. So no, thank you, Peter Barnes. I think tonight is going to be busy for me on Twitter to gather all the meltdowns for tomorrow's videos and kind of show you.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's honestly going to be beautiful. Like the Sunday shows, I keep your eye on things like the Sophie Ridge show and Laura Kunsberg on Sunday, because they'll go really hard on this, because the ones you have to notice is Carrie Johnson's former advisor is on the list. One of her jobs apparently was to walk Dylan the dog. So, and one of the hairdressers in Parliament has been given something. So there's lots for people to go at. So, you won't be short of something to talk about, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for watching. We're going to come back in half an hour and talk about how Germany have realized Brexit Britain was right. And they're going to copy us when it comes to the Rwanda plan. Subscribe to the channel. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.